Hey guys, John from presailing.com here, and I'm going to be talking today on how to use Google Sheets specifically for real estate. So if you are not familiar with how to use Google Sheets, this is going to be a very good video for you. But even if you are a seasoned Google Sheets expert, this is going to probably break down a few things you may not have been super familiar with. So I'm in Google Drive currently. So Google Drive is totally free to use, and you can get to it by having a Google account that you log into. And you will just go ahead and create a folder, or you can just add a new file directly into here. So I'm going to click on New, and I'm going to say New Google Sheet. You can do Docs, which is like a which is like a Microsoft Word doc essentially. Slides, which is like a PowerPoint. Forms, which is incredibly helpful. And that's how you can like get a lot of new information. You can even do stuff like Google Sites, but we're just going to be talking about Google Sheets today. And Google Sites, by the way, is a free way to build a website. So I'm going to have our new table that just popped up, or a new spreadsheet rather, and I'm going to say test spread sheet, exclamation point. And if I come in here and I reload the page, you can see there's the file that we just made. I would then be able to come in here and download this, and it would download as an Excel file by default. And that's an offline copy. But while this is an online copy, I can get to it through web. I can get to it through my computer, my phone, whatever. I can share this with other people. They can collaborate on it, all in real time, all simultaneously, so you don't have different versions you got to deal with. So let's go ahead and get started in here. And give me 1 second. So I have a little admin on review items on the left side of my screen that you can't see that I'm referencing every now and then. So we talked about how to create a Google Drive folder or a file. You could also create a folder in here. If I say new folder, then I can say test folder, and I can just drag this file into that folder, as you can see. Additionally, I can just cut. So I do Control X, and I can move back a folder, and I can say Control V, and I can actually cut and paste that just like a normal item. But I'm going to go ahead and drag that back into there for now. And that does not change what's in the spreadsheet. It just changes the location of the spreadsheet. Okay, so now that we're in here, I can say test data entry, and that is what's known as a string. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see this better. So what I mean by a string is it's just text. That's it. So I can say hello world. I could also come down here and say current end of year one, or I'll say year one, year two. And I can maybe come on the other side here and say gross income and expenses. I'll say /m to indicate per month. So what I could do here is I could say this is 10,000, and then this is 12,000, and then on this one it will say 13,000. So one thing you'll notice here is the formatting is a little different between the three of these because I typed it differently. I typed this one with a comma and then this one with a $sign. But if you look at the value bar up here, this shows you what's actually in it. It's showing an actual number because that's what it reads it as. It's just formatting it differently. So if I wanted to, I can come in here and I can actually copy 10,000 into year one. So I'm going to say Control C, and I'm going to click on the cell under C6. I'm going to paste it. You'll see it will modify, or it will paste exactly what was in B6, which was this one that was 10,000. I just do Control C and then Control V to paste, and it copies that over directly. Let's just imagine we just wanted to paste just the value, not the formatting. So there's two different things going on here. There's the formatting, which says display it with a comma. So if you see there's no comma for 12,000 here, but there is a comma here. So if I want to paste just the formatting, I'm going to do Control Alt V, and that will paste just the formatting. Additionally, I can come in here and I can right click, I'll say paste, and I can say format only. And you can see how that would paste it there. Additionally, I can do Control C and then come over here, paste, and then I can say values only, and then it's going to paste just the value independent of the formatting. So I'm going to come up here to the fill color. I'm going to change this to green or yellow in this case, and I'm going to paste just the formatting onto this other cell, and you see it mimics it. So it gets rid of the $sign because the formatting was not there originally, and it moves just the color. If I came up here and I bold and I italicized, I could say 10,000 like that. I could paste that formatting only onto here. If I do, and that's with Control Alt V. But if I copy this and I paste just the whole thing, then you'll see it does formatting and values. So again, a little key distinction. I don't want to get too in the weeds on it. But this is a little helpful because if I have this formatting here with the $sign, then I can just come over and very quickly apply the same formatting all the way across. Additionally, I could come up here and make this maybe like a gray with a bold. I can come up here to horizontal align and center it. And I could copy that. I can select all of these cells. I can do Control-Alt-V, and that pastes just the formatting. It's just a little quicker way so you don't have to manually change every single cell. Okay, so other things we can do for formatting as well is I can come up here to the borders, and I can select different borders. So you see it just threw a little line around everything. I can make that a very thick border as well. And I can maybe even make it green if I wanted to. So that's nice to highlight chunks of data to say, hey, this block of data is all related. Okay, last item here is I'm going to say current data as of today. So if you see, it runs over. So I can do one of two things. Is I can expand the column here, and I can let it display everything. Or I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo. Additionally, I could just come up here and hit undo right there on the little back arrow. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come up here to text wrapping. I'm going to wrap the data. So what that does is it wraps it around so I can view all the contents of the cell without having to expand the column width. Now, I don't like how year 1 and year 2 is at the bottom there. So what I can do is I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to come up here to vertical align, and I can format it so it all goes to the top. So now it's all centered, it's all at the top, right? But let's just say I had some goofiness like, you know, this, and it doesn't have any of the data in there. What I can do is I can just do Control-C, and I come over here, and I can just do Control-Alt-V, and you notice it's going to paste all of the data, or it's going to paste all the formatting in there, just like the other cell. So I'm going to hit Control-Z, just back out all that. So hopefully it gives you a little bit of idea on how and why to format, or on how to format. The reason of why to format is because if we're dealing with a lot of data, we want it to be easy to read and easy to look at. So formatting is going to be very important for when you're looking at large data sets, especially if you're doing this for real estate purposes where you're trying to present it to people, is you want to make sure they can read your information as cleanly and as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to go on to some other things. So here's some real nitty-gritty stuff. So we've learned how to type in data. We've learned how to format data, how to wrap it, underline, bold, italicize. You could also come in here and change the font size up here. I can make it really big. I can make it really small, stuff like that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about how to do some formulas. So we're going to say gross income is that. I'm going to say expenses, I'm just going to say is $2,000 a month. And I'm just going to do Control-C and then Control-V to paste it. So now I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say net income per month. So then I'm going to do equals. So I type equals, and then I can select the first cell by just clicking it, and I type in minus, and I'm going to select the second cell. So you can see Google actually even popped that up as a suggestion for me. So I'm going to say the same thing here, equals that minus that. And it's going to do is if I modify this cell and I call that 2,000 instead, if I call it 3,000, it's going to modify that in real time so that I don't have to recalculate it. So that's the difference of using a static, which means it's not changing, a static number like 3,000 or 12,000 here, versus a formula which responds to whatever the inputs are. So it's always going to follow whatever's in cell C6 minus whatever's in cell C7. That's how formulas work. So now that I've established a formula for, let's just call it this one right here, B6 minus B7, if you click on the formula bar here, it'll show you which two cells it's referencing. So the orange minus the purple. So this is orange minus purple. And it just does those color codes to help. But I can actually do Control-C to copy, and I can come over one. I can do Control-V. And what it's going to do is it's going to copy over the relative frame. So it's going to say, hey, B6 is 2 cells higher than the current, and B7 is 1 cell higher than the current. Like it's up 1. So when I move it over, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to do relative to this cell. It's also doing 2 cells higher minus 1 cell higher. And when I say that, I just mean like above, like position of it. So I can just copy that formula all the way down, and you can see it saves me a lot of time. So I don't have to like actually manually input that formula every time. Okay, so let's do, so that was, we covered formulas. We covered how to do like subtraction. You can also do addition. So I can say that plus 3. And it will do, it will say B6 minus B7 plus 3. And if I want to copy that formula down, it's going to apply for everything here. I could also say this is net income per month. So now I'm going to say net income per year. So I can just say equals that, which I just hit the up arrow because you can navigate around here with the arrows, or you can just click on the cell that you're trying to talk about. So I say equals B8. And then I'm going to do asterisk, which is the shift plus 8. That's a little star key. So I'm going to say that's the multiplication symbol, by the way, for like spreadsheets. So I'm going to say equals B8 multiplied by 12. And I hit enter. And what that's going to do is the same. It's going to reference this cell, and this cell is referencing these two cells. So now this is really neat because if I change a cell all the way up here and I call gross income 9,000, it's going to modify down here. It's going to modify the actual output. So this is really nice because I don't have to reprogram everything. I don't have to recalculate everything. I can just do it once and then call it a day. I'm going to do Control C. I'm going to copy it all the way down. And you can see how our net income changes year over year, but it's because of this data here. If I type Control and then it's the tilde sign, which is next to the 1 key, if I hold down Control and I press that, it will show you a special view of the whole spreadsheet, which is basically if it's a formula or not. Then I will do that again to undo it. That's just a little nice thing you can do to see what's a formula and what's not, rather than clicking in every little cell. Okay, so now we have gross income per month, expenses per month, net income per month, maybe net income per year. I want to bold that, and maybe I want to put that in a bracket just so I have it for future reference, nice and clean and easy to view. It's kind of like our bottom line. Maybe I'll color that like a slight shade as well. Again, just makes it a little bit more professional to look at. If I wanted to, by the way, let's just say this is a, instead of $3,000 a month, let's just say it's like equals, I don't know, $3,253 a month. I can use an equal sign to express that, even though I could have just typed it in. But then I can say divided by, 12 or something like that. Then if I were to come up here, I can increase the decimal places, and you can see it actually will do a little bit more specific number. It does not change how it's calculated, it just changes how it's displayed. So if you're dealing with thousands, you probably don't care about cents. But if you're dealing with individual dollars, you might care about cents. I just figured I'd share that real fast just because it's a nice little way to modify your data and still be able to see things that might matter. So we covered addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Now if I want to say division, I'm going to say net income per year. So that's $132,000 here. But if we got net income per month, right? So that's $8,000. So maybe I want to see what the net income per day is. So I'm going to say net income per day. So I can say equals maybe the monthly divided by 30. So I do the slash, which is right next to the shift key on the right side of the keyboard. And then I can see what that is per day. And again, if I want to extend this out with decimal points, then I can see that's $266.67. And that is assuming I divide it by 30. But if we multiply it by, or if we divide them yearly by 365, that will actually be slightly more accurate. So what I can do is I'll come in here and I'll say B9, so I can just type it in, B9 divided by 365. And you can see it's just a little bit more accurate information. The reason why you want to be very accurate on stuff is if you are saying, hey, this is the dollars I make per day, but then you multiply it by like 10,000 days, it's going to matter how accurate you are, because the more inaccuracies you have, the more it adds up and the less accurate your final result will be. Okay, so now we have that information here. So we've covered multiplication, addition, subtraction, and division. So there's some other items we can do, which is gross income per month. We're going to cover the sum formula. So underneath gross income per month, I'm going to right click on the cell below and I'm going to say insert one row above. I'm going to hit Control Y in order to redo that last action a couple times. And I'm going to say this is unit 1 rent per month. I'm going to copy that down and just change the 1 to a 2. And then same thing here. And then same thing here. So let's just say this is 4 units total. And maybe each of these are doing, I don't know, $2,500 a month. So I will paste that all the way down. And I want to redo this. So instead of it being, I want to have it so if I change the rent amount in here, it changes the gross income per month. So let me reformat this real fast. All right, so then I'm going to say equals sum, S-U-M, and then you do parentheses, and then there's a little tip that pops up here. It shows you how to do the formula. So it says sum A2 to A100, and then with 101. So that basically would sum up everything in that range and then also add 101 to that. It just gives you an example on how to do it. I'm going to close that out though, and I'm just going to say sum, and then I'm going to click and drag over these areas here, and then I'm going to close out my parentheses and hit enter. So what this does now is if I change the number under unit 1, it will modify the formula for sum. That's a little quicker than saying equals this plus this plus this plus this plus this. It's just, I can say equals sum. I'm going to copy that formula down for everything else. And then I'm going to say equals unit 1 rent. And I'm going to say times 1.05. So what this means is it's adding 5% to that value because I'm multiplying by 1.05. So I can copy that and paste it all the way down. And then I'm going to copy this and paste it into year 2 as well. And it does the same thing, right? It's relative reference. So it's saying, hey, the cell to my left, multiply that by 1.05 to add 5%. So you can see how it automatically does all of our calculations. I'm going to do control tilde, which is next to the 1 key, just to see what all is a formula versus not. And that is, I'm going to delete some of this dead space. So I'm going to right click and I say delete row, delete row, delete row. If I wanted the average of these, let's say it's 2,400, and then maybe that's 2,600, 2,300, whoops, and 2,500, something like that. Let's just say I wanted the average of all of this information. Then I'm going to insert a row above this, and I'm going to say average unit rent, and I can say equals average, parentheses, select the data I want to average, and it will give me the average value for all of the data. Additionally, I could just select this and come to the bottom right, and it will show me very quickly what it is, but it's not going to actually do that as a formula in real time. Or it's not going to do it as a formula all the time, but it will do it in real time. So I want to take this average, I'm going to move that down, and you can see what our average rent would be. Maybe I want our average rent to be formatted correctly in the way that we want to look at it, so I'm going to do something like that. All right, if I want the max, I'm going to insert one more row, and I'm going to say max rent. I'm going to say equals max, and then select the data, and it's going to just return the highest value of that. I can paste that down as well. All right, another useful tip is you can do dates. So I can say equals today, and then what you do is you do parentheses, and then you just close out the parentheses. And what that will do is it will show today's date. So that will, if it's a new day, the spreadsheet will automatically recalculate it. I can also say equals now, and it does that down to the minute/second. So it will only update that every time there's an edit on the spreadsheet. So if I make an edit over here, you can see it will update this information. So that's nice if you want like a little calendar or clock or something like that. Additionally, it's nice if I'm trying to say, hey, what is, so if today, I'm going to move this with Control X and then Control V to paste. So let's just say today is that date. And then I say closing time is 30 days. Then I can say closing date equals that plus that. And then it will show what 30 days in the future would be. Additionally, I could, instead of referencing cell B19, I'm just going to say equals today, parentheses, parentheses. And then I don't actually need this information. So hopefully that gives a little and instead of, yeah, okay, we did that good. Says how to use sum, average, max, today, and also now. There's another one that's very useful, which I'm going to just copy over this table. So we have for loan amounts, we're going to say, what is our loan? Let's see, calculating loan payments. And we're going to bold that here, and we'll throw a little border around it just to make it look nice and pretty. So if we have a price of, say, 500,000, 500,000 there, I'm going to say our down payment is maybe 10%. then our loan amount would be equals, equals our price times parentheses 1 minus 10%. And I'm going to close out the parentheses. So just take a look at that formula logic. Equals orange cell times 1 minus purple cell. So what that's going to say is if our down payment is 10%, therefore our loan amount is going to be 90%. But I don't want to just type in 90% because if I change the down payment later, I want it to react accordingly. So by doing this, it will show us what the math is, and it will show our loan amount. So this is nice. If I change our down payment, I can play around with that and see what our different loan amount would be. So now I'm going to say our interest rate. I'm just going to type in 6% because I'm just going to guess. Or maybe I want to pretend that it's 6%. Our amortization period is going to be, I'll put that in months. Our amortization period will be 360 months. So that's saying the term of the loan on how fast it pays. So we're going to say it pays over a 360-month cycle, like a 30-year loan, basically. So if I want a payment, this is the formula for payment. And there's a practice problem as well on preselling.com that you can go to. But if I want for a payment, it's going to be equals, and then the formula is negative PMT for payment, and then parentheses. And then I'm going to click on this little help sign, so it tells me what to do. And it's going to say rate, so I'm going to select our rate. But then I'm going to divide it by 12, because we want to calculate everything as a monthly payment, not as an annual payment. And I'm going to say comma, number of periods will be 360, so I just click it, comma, present value would be the present value of the loan, which is currently $450,000. And then you can specify some other variables here, but we don't need to. So I'm going to back out of that and just close out the parentheses. And what this will do is it will calculate the monthly payment that you would have given all of these parameters. So this is very, very, very helpful for real estate, as you can imagine, because we're dealing with loans all the time. So this is also nice if you're trying to figure out if a property will cash flow for somebody else, and you don't have to go, hire a consultant or go online and try to figure it out or ask ChatGPT. You can just calculate it very, very quickly. So let's say somebody's using a normal 30% down and the payment's $2,000 a month, then you'll be able to figure out, does the property cash flow? And additionally, you can figure out, would it qualify for a bank? Because a bank payment needs to obviously be less than whatever the net cash flow is going to be, pretty much every time. And like nobody wants to buy a property that's going to lose them cash every month. So that's a very quick way to do it, is equals negative PMT, and then just click on the help item there, which is right here. It's this little drop down thing, and it will show you how to do the formula. But make sure your interest rate, you're doing that on a monthly, so you want to take your annual interest rate and divide it by 12. And then for your amortization period, which would be your term of the loan, you want to make sure you're also doing that in months. Okay, other quick items. Let's just say I'm going to insert some rows up here. I'm going to say address is 123 Main Street, city, state, 12345 zip code. Right? Let's say I want to link the Zillow link. So Zillow, I'll type in Zillow. I can right click here, and then I can say insert link. So we're going to click that, and then you can just paste in a formula or you can just paste in a link. And if you click that, it will take you to wherever the link is. So if I say Zillow, I just say buy, and I'm just going to pick this thing. Right? Copy the link. I can come over to here, and I can go to edit link, and then change the link. And then if I want to change what it says, then I'll say on market link, and I can hit apply, and then it will link that actually within the formula. All right, and then let's just say status. I'm going to say I want to have it say one of multiple items, but only one of multiple items. So I'm going to come up here to insert, and then I'm going to click drop down, and then I can say contacted, not contacted, and then I'm going to say under contract, closed. And maybe I want to have different colors here depending on the situation. something like that maybe, right? I can pick different ones here. I'll hit done, and then if I come over here, I can select which of these items I want it to be. Now, if you see, I could try to wrap the text, but it's just going to look a little goofy because then it's like 2 lines. So what I can do instead is I'm going to select these 2 cells, and then I'm going to come up here to merge. I'm going to click on merge cells, and then it just shows it as 1 cell. So you can even see how the highlighter goes around the whole thing. That's now 1 cell. And then I can select this and say not contacted, etc. Okay. Now we're going to wrap this up here because I'm going to show how you should probably set up your property folders. Is you should always name your property folder 123 Main Street or whatever the address is. City, state, 12345. And I like to name it exactly the correct Google format because you can do some really interesting things later, and I can maybe make a really advanced Google Sheets video. But if you name it exactly the way the address is, it allows you to extract like the name of the folder, and then you can automatically run a bunch of calculations based off of just the address, for instance. But you can't do that if it's not formatted right. So I would recommend every single time, if I just go to 123 Main Street, I can just find whatever address, whatever, Pinnacle K9, whatever that is. And if I just copy address, I want it to be in that format, like exactly this, you know, street number, street, city, state, zip code. Because if I were to come in here, I can copy this, and I come over to our test spreadsheet, and I can paste it. And it's going to actually hyperlink it to that folder, and it's going to also include the name in there. And I can then use a spreadsheet function to like run it through Google Maps formulas, and it will basically do a lot of stuff like, hey, I need to pull the GPS coordinates of this particular address. There's a lot of stuff you can do later when you get really advanced at it, but you can't do that if it's not formatted correctly. So for real estate purposes, always name it exactly what Google says is the bottom line. So we're going to say 123 Main Street. I'm going to move our test spreadsheet into that folder. I'm going to rename our test spreadsheet the property address. Again, exactly what the Google format is. I'm going to have address in there as well. I'm going to delete all the stuff that doesn't matter. And I will delete, 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 delete. I'm going to come down here even and just say underwrite. And I might come over and I say, for a new tab, I just click the plus, and I'm going to rename this new tab questions to ask seller. And I can say A, B, C, whatever. Right? Those are all the questions I might have in the list to ask the seller. And it's on a totally different tab. I'm going to come up here to share. And there, you can see there's different functionalities. So I can share it to other people, and I can say restricted. I can say anyone with a link can edit, and then I could copy that link, and then anyone that opens that link would then be able to edit this document, but they don't even have to edit by being signed into Google. It's just anybody can edit it. If you want to change it so it's not just that one particular file that you have to manually go into every single time and change, you can come up with a folder and then just change the folder permissions. And then anybody with the link here can edit. And if I say done, any new file I create under here is going to have the same permission. This is a test document. And you see, when I went up to share, it automatically already had the permission settings done. So what I would highly recommend is you create a folder and have everybody have either viewer or editor access, whatever it is you want to do. And then when you send that folder, it's got everything in there. It's got the underwrite, it's got your purchase and sale agreement contract should go in here. You should have all your photos for a property go in here, and then you just share the link to the whole folder and already have it with the appropriate permissions. So if you're sending it to somebody to have them review your deal, you should probably make sure that it's got edit permissions, and you want to make sure that everything's named properly so they don't have questions of like, you know, if it says Joey's deal, it doesn't tell me anything. But if you say 123 Main Street, I'm going to know very clearly what you're talking about. Lastly, so that we talked about underwrite, we talked about how to organize stuff. I would recommend that you keep almost all your information on one file, which is going to be an Excel file. So that's going to be, you know, address, link, status, whatever. I could also say like tax, assessor, link. I could say, you know, property, parcel ID. I could even come down here, make a new tab and say communication log. And I can say who, when, what, and I can say seller, and then I can say this was done on 6/15/2025, 3 p.m. And then I can say we talked about XYZ. And I can have a nice little log in there. Let me come up here and keep it, make it a header by freezing that column and formatting this. Now I can have like a communication log in there. So if I send this to somebody else for them to review what's going on, I can have a very detailed record of what's going on with that property, who I've talked to, what we talked about, what's going on with the underwrite, what is unit 1 renting for, what is the average for those rents, what are the expenses, what's the net income per year, what's the closing timeline, what's the loan payment going to be, what's the property parcel ID, what's the link, what's the address, what's the status, everything, all in one-stop shop very easily so that I can get the maximum response from people trying to help me on my deal. This is also very, very important if you are trying to wholesale a deal. You want to make sure that you have as much information as humanly possible if you're trying to make more than $5. Like if you want a $5 wholesale fee, great, do crap. But then if you want something to actually be good and presentable, you want to make sure you include as much information as possible. And I highly recommend you put almost everything specifically in a Google spreadsheet, which is the best way to format all the information. Additionally, all the rest of your stuff is going to be in this folder file. And you can even make like to-do list tasks for yourself. You can say taskers, and then just like the communication log, you can say who, what, when, whatever. I can just come in here and say who's responsible, when is it due, what is it. And I can do the same thing. I can say Joey on that date needs to submit offer to seller. And then it's a very clear task list where I could say seller, you know, needs to respond to offer. Maybe I'll come in here and I'm going to change it to that date. So then it's very, very, very clear who's doing what, when's it due, where's all the information, what is the underwrite, where is everything located. They're not having to be like, hey, can I get photos? Because you already included it in your file folder here. So you'd say like photos. And then that's where you upload all your photos to. And it's just one folder, one link that you send to people and you say, hey, check this out. I got everything in one-stop shop. You don't have to ask a billion questions. It's going to also help you out because you will not have to answer so many questions of like, hey, can you send me the file folder with the photos? And you're like, well, I don't have that. It's like, just do it. Everyone's going to ask for it. So yeah, hopefully this has been very helpful. If you have more questions, I'm available through Discord mainly. That's going to be linked in the bio and / description. And this is definitely the best way to run your underwrites for anything to do with real estate. If you are having questions on how do I calculate the value of a property or how do I calculate how much profit it's going to make over 2 years, make sure to go watch Module 1. It's going to be on presaling.com/training. I'll go ahead and go to it here. Oops, presaling.com/training. And everything's on here. So it's this video right here where it looks like I'm glaring at you. Go on here, watch the video. It's the best that I have to offer for 1 hour of here's the best way to underwrite properties. And I also have the slides, underwrite practice, everything else as well. Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff on here. Everything's free. I want to keep it always free. But hopefully this has been very, very helpful. Make sure to practice, practice, practice. If you need practice problems, there's an underwrite practice right here. And it will take you to this link. And it will let you practice everything we've just covered in this video. It'll let you put it into execution so you can actually start to build up your skill set. So make sure to keep on grinding. Make sure to keep on doing a lot of underwrites, and you guys will definitely get there. Take care.